Syracuse defeats UConn 58-55 in the Big East Tournament Quarterfinals. Coming up, you'll hear from Coach Boeheim, and we'll take you inside the Orange locker room as a special edition of Orange Press Pass gets underway from Madison Square Garden. Welcome into Madison Square Garden. You're watching Orange Press Pass. I'm Ryan Coletti, joined by Dan Girard. And Dan, Syracuse defeats UConn for the third time this season. Certainly wasn't expected at the beginning.
Yeah, no question about that. All games this season have been very tight. I know the first game, an 85-68 game, but it was close all throughout before Syracuse blew away. You know, it was going to be a tough game. UConn coming off 2 straight wins, had all the momentum going. Syracuse, the double bye, haven't been playing since Saturday. Going to be a tough game, and ultimately delivered on that.
Let's take a look at how the statistics shaped out in the final of this one. The final score, obviously, 58-55. Dion Waiters' dunk at the end didn't count for Syracuse, but he led the Orange with 18 points today. He
won maybe 20, but Dion Waiters today, he's really been down the stretch sort of quiet. He needed a big game, and what better way to do it than on the big stage of Madison Square Garden.
And if you look at Chris Joseph's shooting statistics, 1 for 8 from the field, but it ultimately ended up with 10 points.
8 of 13 from the foul line. He was bummed by a thumb injury. He was on his non-shooting hand. Didn't really want to cite that, but obviously had an impact on his performance.
It wasn't my shooting hand, so it had no effect on me.
Well, just say it was. That was, you can't shoot that bad unless you're hurt, can you? A team like Connecticut, they've had a couple games. They're loose. You know, I hate sitting around all week, and you know, it's very difficult. I'm glad that we're able to get a win. We haven't played that many games, and we need to play again. You know, tomorrow's game will help us. And but this was a tremendous comeback. This team's been very good down the stretch all year, and you know, that was the case today.
Also with 10 points was James Sutherland, and something that won't show up in the statistics is the way he was able to shoot in the clutch down the stretch, Dan.
2 big threes for James Sutherland, and really, going back to the Notre Dame game, he has been ice cold, and they really needed him big time to step up, and really, when they were down 8, they needed someone to come up with those huge shots. Really wasn't the starters. It was James Sutherland in his hometown. His family was here. They're from Bayside, and obviously on the big stage, back in the Madison Square Garden, what better way to do it than right here today?
He unexpectedly stood up for the Orange today, but there was also an unexpected player sitting down for them in this game. A player that was a second Big East all-team selection, and Scoop Jardine only played 3 minutes in the second half.
Look, Scoop Jardine, he was 1 of 6 from the field today, and Scoop said after the game that because he was 1 of 6, he didn't want to be out there. If there were other people who were ultimately contributing, which was absolutely the case with both Dion Waiters, Brandon Trish did have 7 points, also James Sutherland, Scoop will gladly take a back seat. All that matters to him is that they got the win, and obviously that was what took place.
Now Syracuse's woes continued rebounding. They were still out-rebounded by UConn, but they made up for it in protecting the ball, Dan.
Yeah, 4 turnovers only for Syracuse, which is now a Big East record for the Orange. So this has been a theme all season long. The rebounds rather, has been a major issue for them all season, but they've been making up for it because Fab Melo's been getting the blocks, and they've been ultimately able to hold on to the ball and ultimately force turnovers, which allows them to get out in transition. Really been a staple for this team all season. Big reason why they're 31-1.
Well, let's talk to the Orange players. Let's head inside the Orange locker room and hear what they had to say following this latest win.
I was just saying, it's priceless, you know, to get a great win against a tough UConn team who I think, if they get in the tournament, they're going to be a tough match because the talent and the caliber team that they are. So for us to beat them 3 times, it speaks a lot about our team, and I'm happy.
Oh, it felt great, and I just put in my mind I was going to make the shots and put more legs into it, put a raise line arc, and those shots just felt great.
Louisville, you started to get your shot back. Have you done anything differently, like, or you're just trying to shoot the same shots you always have?
Just stayed consistent and stayed mentally prepared, and just put more legs into my shot. I felt like I wasn't shooting with my legs, and when I changed it, adjusted, and also raised my arc, it helped a lot.
I mean, it was great. You see me, I was out there, I was rolling, and that's what the bright lights do to you, man. Bring the best out of you, and a lot of people don't really realize that until they get out there and they see the lights and they see the guard, and you just staring around like, wow. And just bring the best out of you, man.
And as the Orange players were speaking, a game was taking place out on the court, Dan, and it was Cincinnati and Georgetown. Probably many Syracuse fans rooting for Georgetown, so you set up the rivalry game, but ultimately Cincinnati won in double OT, 72-70. What did you see from Cincinnati?
Well, Cincinnati, the fact is, usually it's a team that all season long has relied upon the 3. 2 of 21 from outside the arc today. Yancey Gates did have a big game, 23 points. Fab Melo's going to have his work cut out for him tomorrow night. But look, Cincinnati's going to have to hit the threes. They had 8 when they played Syracuse earlier this season out in Cincinnati. If they're going to rely upon outside shooting and really keep this game close.
Focusing back on Syracuse for one final time. What did we learn about the Orange today, and when they came back from a second-half deficit for the first time this season?
Look, it's all about resiliency. That's really been the theme for this team all season long. And look, they've been able to find ways to win. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been easy. But they've managed ways to get the job done. And right now, 31 out of 32 times this year, and that one loss came without Fab Melo. They're 31-1 and really cruising right now into the semifinals.
Well, we'll see if the resiliency plays a factor in tomorrow night's game. And the way this Big East tournament always goes, it just might. Exactly. That does it for a special edition of Orange Press Pass. Continue to follow Citrus TV's coverage of the Big East tournament at sportsblog.citrustv.net and continuous updates on Twitter at CitrusTV Sports. With Dan Girard, I'm Ryan Coletti. Good night from Madison Square Garden.